the Institute of Directors has given me an opportunity to interact with you. And I was asking General Ahluwalia, leading on from their tagline, which says that we build the boards of tomorrow. So I asked him, I said, do you only build public sector boards or private sector boards? So he said that primarily private sector boards. And this had been playing on my mind for a while because this conference is being held against the backdrop of possibly a very monumental human tragedy that we witnessed unfolding in Uttarakhand. From the 16th of July, from the 16th of June till about the 1st of July, it fell to my remit to brief people about the rescue efforts which the government had undertaken. And without going into any hyperbola or profound exaggeration, but I think the collective elements of national power, as they were brought to bear on the rescue and relief effort in Uttarakhand, performed commendably against insurmountable odds. The Air Force lost men, lost equipment, but still persevered. The National Disaster Relief Management Force, the Indian Army, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, the SFF, and every other element of national power was brought to bear and tried to contribute to the best of their ability to mitigate the disaster to the best of their capacities. But as I would go out to brief every day, the one thing that would strike me, and unfortunately I am not possessed with the kind of diplomatic skills which Mr. Rawat articulated during his address, was the lack of a significant corporate response. India is a $2 trillion economy today. 3/4 of India's GDP is in the private sector. And in my mind, every day when I would go out to brief, I would juxtapose the absence of that response with what the Chilean defense minister, while talking about disaster management at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore in 2012, had to say that when an earthquake struck Chile, some of the first responders were actually from the corporate sector in Chile. That is not to say that the Indian corporate sector did not come forth. Some people did send helicopters. I think the telecommunications companies, did do their best to try and restore communications as quickly as possible. But I used to think, why is it that, so many people are stuck in Dehradun? We have so many private airlines. Why haven't any of them even volunteered to run a single free flight to get people out of Dehradun? And so I said that I don't want to start off with a gripe or a grouch, but I think, General Ahluwalia, as you build the boards of tomorrow and you train independent directors to serve on the boards, I know there is a very deep deep conscience in corporate India, but I guess at times it needs to rise to the occasion and manifest itself. I am no expert on either sustainable development or the green economy. I might be knowing far less than the collective wisdom which is assembled in this room. But I recall when the Earth Summit took place in 1992, I used to head the International Union of Students. I was in Rio. We listened to all those very dark and grim warnings, the forebodings of an apocalypse, which were then articulated by leaders from around the world. I recall the frenzy and the sense of anxiety on the streets of Rio when the Earth Summit was going on, as if the world may come to an end soon. And here we are 21 years after Rio, trying to really struggle with some of the issues which possibly should have been addressed far quicker, given the urgency and the emergency of climate change as we see it unfolding all around us. You had the Kyoto Protocol, the Seoul outcome, the Doha round. You have this enduring debate of burden sharing between the developed and the developing world. We have concepts of collective but yet differentiated responsibility. But I think one very fundamental postulate to which the developed world needs to be extremely sensitive is that if you look at planet Earth in a larger perspective, there are 7 billion people who inhabit planet Earth at this point in time. Out of that, about 3 billion people, if you take the population of China, if you take the population of India, which is 1.5 and 1.2 billion and another 300 million, in South and Southeast Asia, occupy a very small portion of the Earth's surface and consequently have access to a very small part of its resources. Unfortunately, we have frozen the power balance of the world in perpetuity in 1945. The victors of 1945 were able to ensure that the flows of capital around the world get globalized. When the Soviet Union and East Europe collapsed in 1991 and Francis Fukuyama predicted the end of history, the flow of global capital or the barriers to global capital came down further. I think as the power shifts and the power balance shifts towards Asia and Asia starts rising, policy makers around Asia must very seriously start thinking as to how we can globalize flows of labor also. I know in a technology-driven world where virtual identities have made Westphalian sovereignty completely irrelevant, but still the Westphalian barriers do act as a huge deterrent to the movement of people, skills around the world. And the specter of the fight against terror as it unfolded after 9/11 have only made those barriers far higher. So therefore, if we really need to find a solution to the problem of environment management, to make the world a sustainable economy, access and equal access of peoples to the resources of the world are also very imperative. In a very quiet manner, at the agenda of the G20 and at various other multilateral fora, we have tried to articulate those concerns. We have tried to mainstream those agendas or those inflection points. But I guess this is also something which policy makers, which independent think tanks, and those who provide the intellectual capital and the intellectual input to policy making need to seriously reflect upon. I would not go into a long-winded discussion on India's tryst with green development, because I think both the Planning Commission and the 13th Finance Commission as well as the Ministry of Environment have been persevering to see as to how this differentiated burden can be borne by the Indian economy and by India as a country to the best of its ability. But there comes a time, if we realize that there is a critical need to save planet Earth, that possibly those who talk about burden sharing should really introspect, should reflect, and should see as to how they can at least discharge their part of the burden